Have you ever been called selfish by someone who means the world to you? It's a word that hangs in the air, sharp and heavy. I remember the moment. It happened so suddenly, so unexpectedly. It was just a simple gathering, or at least it was meant to be. Have you ever felt like everything was fine, and then in one heartbeat, everything changed? What happens when a single word breaks a family apart? I still wonder about that. One word, selfish, was all it took. My son looked me in the eyes, and I saw something I never wanted to see: disappointment, hurt, maybe even anger. I tried to swallow my own shock. Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and seen a storm you never knew was coming? I know I'm not alone in this feeling. Maybe you've been there too, wondering what you did, searching your memories for the moment things went wrong. Did I miss some sign? Was I too wrapped up in my own worries, my own life? I never thought one word could change everything. Would you? When someone you love throws a word at you like a stone, what are you supposed to do? I remember my world pausing. Do you know that kind of silence, where even your heartbeat feels too loud? Thoughts raced in my mind. Should I fight back or just listen? I couldn't find my voice. Had you ever felt so stunned you couldn't speak even when you wanted to? So, I'm sitting here now, wondering what anyone else might do in my shoes. Would you stand up for yourself, or would you let it go? Maybe you'd try to fix things. Maybe you'd run away. It's a question I keep asking myself. If my story sounds familiar, maybe you're asking it too. Would you hold on to hope, or would you let fear take over? In that moment, all I knew was something had changed, and maybe, just maybe, you're wondering what happens next. Last year, my son stopped laughing with me. I noticed it slowly at first. A missing smile at breakfast, quiet car rides, that little laugh he used to have when I told a silly joke. I kept thinking it was nothing, just busy days or stress from work. But as the weeks went on, our talks grew shorter and the space between us seemed to get wider. Have you ever felt someone pulling away, even when you're sitting right next to them? We had secrets we never talked about. Some things were left unsaid, maybe because we both thought they'd just go away on their own. But secrets don't disappear. They settle in the corners of a house and creep into moments you wish were better. Sometimes I wished I could ask, "Are you upset?" But I just kept silent, not wanting to make things worse. My anxiety grew. I started waking up in the night, mind racing with every memory of a missed chance, a misunderstood word. What if I was the reason he was so distant? Sometimes all you want is for life to go back to how it was, but you don't know how to get there. I'd cook his favorite meal, hoping it would make things feel normal again. But he'd just say thanks, maybe force a smile, and that would be it. Little by little, those warm, noisy family dinners became quiet, short, and filled with glances that spoke more than words. Have you ever felt a relationship slipping away, and no matter what you tried, you couldn't stop it? There were days when I rehearsed conversations in my head. What should I say today? Should I try to ask about his life or give him more space? But nothing seemed to work. I could feel my nerves twining tighter, afraid I'd say the wrong thing and push him further away. Sometimes I wondered if he noticed at all, or if it was just me counting every lost moment. I watched the seasons change. Winter came and went. Spring brought new flowers outside. But the inside of our home stayed cold. I realized our connection had faded almost without warning, and I didn't know whether to fight for it or let time do its thing. Maybe this is just how things happen, I told myself, but the fear wouldn't go away. Have you ever been afraid to ask, in case the answer is something you don't want to hear? As much as I wanted to fix things, all I could do was watch and hope for a sign, a word, a smile, anything to tell me that it was still possible to bridge the gap. I missed the old days, missed hearing his laughter echo down the hallway and feeling that I was a part of his world. Sometimes, when I catch him glancing my way and looking away quickly, I wonder if he misses me too. Would you reach out, or would you wait and see? It started as a regular evening. There was a quiet buzz in the living room, soft voices, glasses clinking, small talk dancing through the air. I could feel the energy shifting, though. Nothing felt quite right. People smiled, but it was tight and quick. My son sat across from me, barely touching his food, eyes moving from his plate to the window and back again. I tried not to stare, but every part of me focused on him, hoping for a sign that we were okay. The room got quieter with every passing minute. It was like everyone was waiting for something to happen, but no one wanted to be the first to talk about it. I felt my own heartbeat, heavy and alive in my chest. Looking around, I noticed my wife pressing her lips together, looking anywhere but at me. My brother-in-law's fork scraped his plate louder than any joke or story. You know that feeling, when the air gets thick and no one can break the silence? It's like a storm about to break, and you hope it passes, but you know it won't. I was afraid to speak, afraid to move, because anything could tip things over. A word here, a sigh there. My son's face said more than words ever could. His jaw was tight, eyes narrow, shoulders hunched like he was holding back something big. He didn't have to say he was angry. I could feel it. Sometimes, hurt and disappointment fill a room without anyone saying a thing. People sometimes think emotional storms begin with yelling or shouting, but sometimes they start with quiet. That night, it felt as if everyone was holding their breath. I watched my son's wife stir her wine absent-mindedly, her gaze drifting between me and my son. I wondered what she was thinking, if she was just as nervous or already planning what to say next. Can you feel the tension? I know I could. It was in the way nobody made jokes, how people kept clearing their throats, how the youngest cousin left the table early. I tried to remember what family gatherings used to be like, warm laughter, stories shared, hugs at the end of the night. Now, every moment felt sharp, like the air in the room was cold and cutting. I stared at the family photos on the walls, wishing I could step into an older, happier scene. The seconds dragged out. I watched my son, hoping for eye contact so I could try and smile, or at least nod in reassurance. But his eyes just stayed down, shoulders still tense. I wondered if anyone else felt their heart pounding like mine. I wanted to say something kind, to bring back some warmth, but the words froze. My mind raced through all the things I could say. Are you okay? Is something wrong? But nothing felt right. Then came a heavy, quiet sigh from my son. He finally looked up at me, and I saw pain mixed with anger in his face. I'll never forget that look. For a split second, I thought about all the time we'd lost, all the words we should have said, all the laughter we once shared. The silence in the room was louder than any voice, stretching so far I thought it would break. You ever been in a room where everyone is holding back tears, trying not to show what they're feeling? That's how it felt, like people were afraid the smallest thing would make everything come undone. My hands trembled under the table. I looked for help in my wife's eyes, but she wouldn't meet mine. It felt like everyone was drifting out of reach. Can you feel the tension I'm talking about? The moment before everything changes, when your whole world feels like it's hanging on the edge? I waited, hoping someone else would speak first, hoping for any sound to break the silence. And just like that, it was clear this was the tipping point. If I didn't say or do the right thing, I knew that everything could fall apart. I wish someone had given me a clue. I wish I had known what would happen next. But sometimes, all you can do is wait and hope the storm passes without tearing you apart. The moment happened so quickly, almost like it was waiting in the shadows for the perfect time to jump out. My son's wife gripped her glass of wine, her knuckles pale against the stem. In one sharp movement, so fast it almost felt unreal, the glass tipped. Wine spilled across the table, the deepest red I'd ever seen, curling into every crease and edge. It spread like a river, staining the tablecloth, running over plates, soaking napkins, dripping onto chair legs. For a second, it was all I could look at, away from the faces and the pain. Just the red, slow and steady, making its mark where it was never supposed to be. It wasn't just the words that stopped, but the breathing, the small movements, even the hum of the kitchen from down the hall. My wife froze, mouth open in quiet shock. My brother-in-law put his hand to his forehead, not sure if he wanted to look or turn away. Everyone just sat there, jaws tight, eyes wide, afraid to make the first sound. I felt my heart beating in my ears louder than everything else. I just sat there, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My hands were gripping the side of my chair so hard they started to ache. I looked at my son, but he didn't look back. His stare was locked on the table, eyes hard as stone. His wife's face was unreadable, her lips pressed together in a thin line. I kept asking myself, did this really happen? Was this how families get torn apart? I could feel my body shaking first in my hands, then in my chest. It was like I was locked in place, waiting for someone to say it was all just a bad joke, waiting for the old warmth to come back. The wine settled into the cloth, darker at the edges, spreading out like a wound. The smell drifted up, sharp and heavy, almost sweet, but with something bitter underneath. Someone coughed quietly. My wife blinked, eyes shining, fighting back tears. All I wanted to do was reach out and fix things, to wipe away the mess, to make it all just go away. But I couldn't even stand. My legs wouldn't work. My words wouldn't form. The fear was too big. It's strange, thinking back, how time seems to slow when big things happen. I saw every drop of wine, every flicker of movement. I remember the sound of glass clinking on wood, the small sigh my son's wife let out, the way my son's shoulders tensed even more. No one spoke, no one moved, but inside, everything changed. The silence grew louder. I felt shame, a heavy kind I hadn't felt since I was a child. Was this my fault? Did I drive my own family to this? Was I really as selfish as they said? My mind raced, thoughts stacking on top of each other, faster and faster, regret for past words, guilt for things never said, hope that somehow there was still time to fix it. But the whine kept spreading, and with every inch, it felt like the line between us was growing wider and harder to cross. I wanted to cry out, to ask everyone to stop, to pull my son close and tell him I loved him no matter what. But something held me back, and fear won over hope. All I could do was watch the red spill take over our quiet dinner, watch the faces around me twist into confusion, anger, hurt. How would you react if everything you built with your family was threatened in a moment this small but this loud? Would you yell, fight back, or just sit still like I did, frozen with fear and disbelief? Would you reach out or retreat, try to pick up the pieces or let them scatter? I'm still trying to figure it out, still wondering if there was something I could have done differently, something I could say now that would heal what's still broken. Maybe you've been here, or maybe you hope you never will be. But sometimes life gives you moments that are louder than any words, and all you have left is the silence and the stain of what's just happened. The wine stayed on the table long after the voices came back. Its mark won't fade, just like this memory won't ever leave me. And as I sat there, locked in place and searching for answers, I knew my family's story had changed forever. What would you do if someone you love crossed a line you never saw coming? The moment after everything happened, it felt like I'd been pushed into another world, one with no sound, no comfort, just empty space. My mind wouldn't stop running. Was I really that bad? Did I ever do something so terrible that my son and his wife could look at me this way, could cross this line and not look back? I tried to recall every memory, birthdays, ordinary dinners, those times we laughed so hard we cried. But all of that felt distant now, washed away by one word and a glass of wine. My wife sat at the other end of the table, hands folded tight, shoulders shaking. She tried to cover her face, but I saw the tears slipping down her cheeks, each one telling me just how wrong things had gone. There's something about seeing someone you love cry quietly. It's not like loud, messy tears. It's smaller, but it sticks with you longer. Sometimes I think her silence hurt me even more than if she'd shouted. Did my family just give up on me? Maybe they always saw me as someone hard to deal with, someone better left alone. Maybe I'd just missed the signs. My son still wouldn't look at me. Not a single glance. It was as if I stopped being part of his story, cut out and set aside. I missed the way he used to run into the house with good news, or how he'd ask me for advice even for simple things. Now, he kept his eyes locked anywhere but on me. If you've ever tried to reach someone and felt that distance, the kind you can't cross, even with the right words, you know what I mean. It's a kind of loneliness that fills you up, that settles in your bones. People began clearing plates, shifting in their seats, whispering about leaving soon. I could hear every little noise, forks against dishes, shoes on the floor, the clock ticking on the wall. My wife got up, wiped her eyes, and disappeared into the kitchen, her steps slow and uncertain. My son's wife stared out into the darkness beyond the window, as if wishing she was somewhere else, anywhere but here. I wanted to speak, wanted to say I was sorry, wanted to ask them all, not just for forgiveness, but for understanding, for a chance to explain. But whenever I opened my mouth, nothing came out. Fear choked every word. Would saying anything even matter? Had I lost my family for good? Truth is, I felt completely alone. Have you ever felt that way, trapped in a room full of people but as lonely as you'll ever be? That night, all the memories of being together seemed far away. The sounds in the house faded, hope slipping further out of reach. I wandered into the hallway, touching the old photos on the wall, pictures of birthdays, smiles, arms wrapped around each other. I touched my own face in one faded snapshot, trying to remember the last time happiness was simple. Was it all an illusion, something I wanted to believe in but never truly had? Or could things still change? I could hear my wife quietly sobbing in the kitchen, the sound soft but sharp each time it broke through the quiet. She didn't call for me, and I didn't go to her. My son stayed at the table, still not looking up. The room seemed colder, shadows longer, each moment telling me how much was lost. That kind of emptiness makes you question everything, every choice, every argument, every time you raised your voice or didn't listen. I asked myself if I could have done better, if I could have been kinder, more patient, more loving. But questioning doesn't fix anything, and as the minutes crawled by, I felt the ache of regret settle in, heavy and hard. Would you try to talk if you felt this way, or would you just sit in silence, too afraid to make things worse? Would you reach across the space, even when it feels like you're reaching through thick glass that keeps the ones you love far away? Maybe the worst part is not knowing if tomorrow will be better. I still wonder, every day now, if my family is lost for good, if I'll ever laugh with my son, or hear my wife's voice filled with happiness again. Sometimes, loneliness is louder than the biggest arguments, and regret fills every corner of your heart. What would you do, feeling this kind of pain? Would you hold on tightly or let go, hoping that somewhere down the line, things might find a way back? All I know is, that night, I felt more alone than ever, and it's a feeling I wouldn't wish on anyone. I sat alone at the edge of my bed, the quiet in the house heavier than ever. My phone lay beside me, screen dark, just a simple machine, yet it felt like it weighed 100 pounds. I kept thinking about everything that had happened, all the words, all the looks, all the pain. My finger hovered over the phone, unsure, trembling just a little. I wanted to reach out, wanted to do something, but every option felt like a step in the wrong direction. Is this betrayal or self-defense? The question echoed in my mind, twisting every thought. If I called my lawyer, would I be turning my back on the people I loved, or just standing up for myself because I had no other choice? It didn't feel fair. It didn't feel simple. I had always believed family could solve things with words, with a hug, with time. Now, for the first time, I felt like I needed help from someone outside, someone paid to fix what I couldn't. Would you trust your family after something like this? Could you honestly put your future, your memories, your own name in their hands again after what just happened? I asked myself again and again if I was overreacting. Maybe if I waited just one more day, things would settle down and we could talk like we used to. But the fear kept coming back. The fear that waiting would only make things worse, that by doing nothing I'd lose even more. I remembered old advice and stories, people saying, family always comes first. But what do you do when your own family makes you feel like a stranger in your own home? Was I protecting myself or ruining things that could still be saved? I kept picturing my son's face, clouded with anger, unable to meet my eyes. I thought about my wife's quiet tears, my own confusion. Is taking legal action just adding fire to a burning house, or is it a last resort? A final line to defend who I am and what I have? Could you walk away from your own blood? Would you draw a line and say, this is enough, or would you try, again and again, to reach out until you had nothing left? All I had was the dark glow of my phone and the weight in my heart, asking for relief I couldn't find. I replayed every moment, sifting through the good times and the bad, searching for just one clue that could tell me what to do. Maybe you felt this too, stuck between love and fear, between wanting to fix things and wanting to protect yourself. With every breath, the choice felt heavier. I wanted someone to tell me what was right, but I knew the decision was mine alone. My finger moved closer to the phone. Should I make the call or wait for a miracle? Would you act or hold on to hope? In that quiet room, I realized sometimes you have to make hard choices, even when it hurts the ones you love. That night, I found out that standing up for yourself can feel just as painful as betrayal. Sometimes, all you can do is try. As I stared at my phone, the weight of everything started to crowd in. I wondered, would I lose my home, my memories, my family? It was more than just the walls and roof. Every picture on the wall, every old sweater tucked in the closet, each worn spot on the carpet, carried years of my life with them. Could I really risk losing all of that? Could calling my lawyer start something that would sweep it all away? The fear was bigger than I'd ever felt. I kept thinking about every tiny thing that made up my world morning sun in the kitchen, the old garden bench, laughter echoing down the hallway. It was never just stuff, it was the feeling of belonging. What if a single decision meant packing up and leaving it all behind? Could things ever be normal again? I pictured the living room with everyone inside, talking over coffee, sharing holiday dinners. In my heart, I knew that even if everything looked the same, there'd be something missing. A silence where joy used to be. Arguments with lawyers, meetings, and paperwork. Would they really bring me peace? Or just another kind of heartbreak? Legal words started to circle my head. Ownership, rights, custody. They sounded cold. They made me nervous. I worried about going to court, about letters coming in the mail, about my son seeing me as nothing but an enemy. I felt torn between standing up for myself and hoping my family would heal. Would I still have a place to call my own, a chair at the table, a reason to stay close to the people I loved? I listened to the house settle around me and thought, what would you fear most losing? Would it be the place you sleep, the stories you've lived, or just the feeling that you're welcome at home? Sometimes the hardest part isn't fighting for your rights. It's wondering if the battle will cost you more than you can bear. I remembered stories of families broken by legal fights, friends who never talked again. My heart clenched with worry. Was I stepping into a storm or escaping one? Would paperwork and lawyers build new walls, or would they give me the safety I was looking for? Each minute the fear grew, but I couldn't decide what scared me most, the loss of things or the loss of people. I wanted to believe that everything would settle down, that somehow we'd find a way back. But the future looked uncertain, and every path seemed filled with risk. As I sat in the quiet, letting the question echo in my mind, I wondered if you've ever had to ask yourself, what matters most? When everything feels close to slipping away, what do you hold on to? Would you fight for your place or fight for peace? Sometimes the choice between heartbreak and hope is the hardest one of all. The days after that night felt longer than any I'd ever lived. Each morning I woke up hoping things would feel better, but the house stayed quiet. Breakfast turned into silent gatherings, each person busy with their thoughts. My wife moved slower, her eyes tired, the worry never leaving her face. My son kept his words short, answered when needed, then quickly left the room. Small things became big signs. My brother came over more often, but not for me. He'd check on my wife, put a hand on her shoulder, whisper comfort while I stayed at the edge of the scene, invisible. I watched them from across the room, sometimes wanting to walk over and join them, but my feet never moved. No one spoke to me unless they had to. The phone calls from friends got fewer, the conversations less warm. I tried to find a place to fit in, but it felt like there was a line drawn in the house. On one side were those who understood her pain, on the other side was me alone, full of regret. Which side would you be on? Maybe you'd comfort the one who cried, listen to the words whispered between siblings. Maybe you'd check on the person who retreated, hoping they'd come back into the circle. Every moment was full of tiny choices. Who sat next to who joined who for tea, who kept quiet when tempers flared. The split wasn't loud or angry, it was quiet, gentle, like a slow drift away. I saw my son and his wife sharing words in hushed voices, glancing my way when they thought I wouldn't notice. The tension filled the space, and nobody wanted to be the first to try to fix it. I wondered if my own actions had started this distance, or if it was something deeper we'd never talked about. When families split, who do you choose? Do you pick sides, defend one, and push away the other? Or do you try to hold on to both and end up losing yourself? I spent hours replaying every moment, searching for something I could say or do, but the silence was stronger than any apology. Dinner times were harder. My wife would serve food, but her hands shook. My son ate quickly, eyes down. My brother would make small talk with her, laughter forced, hoping to lift the mood. I wanted to chime in, bring comfort, fix what was broken, but no one looked my way. Even the dog seemed to choose another spot to rest, turning away from me. The hardest part was knowing this divide might not heal, at least not soon. Every day felt like a test. Each word or gesture whispered across a crack in the floor. Others sometimes called or messaged, asking how we were, but their voices stayed careful, not wanting to get too close to the mess. Would you step in or step back? Would you fight to bring everyone together or give up trying? I kept thinking, if I could just find the right moment, the right thing to say, things would change. But each day that line stayed in place, and the suspense of who would cross it kept building. In every family, sometimes you have to ask, is it better to pick a side, or is there a way to heal, even when it seems impossible? I still hope for that way. But in those days, all I could do was watch. The split wasn't just in the house, it was inside me too. If you've ever felt yourself torn, loved by some, ignored by others, you know how heavy it gets. And all I could do was wonder, deep down, whether the right words or the right choice would ever find me again. That night, when the whole house was quiet and everyone had gone to their rooms, I found myself unable to sleep. My thoughts felt too loud, so I wandered into the hallway, hoping a slow walk in the dark might bring me some peace. Shadows slid across the floor, the hum of distant voices drifted from the living room, soft but clear enough to catch my attention. At first I thought it was just my son and his wife cleaning up, talking about the day, but something about their whispers made me pause outside the door, listening with the kind of curiosity that comes from heartbreak and worry. Their words were careful, almost hidden, but what I heard made my breath catch. I just want what's fair, my son's wife said, her voice tight and low. My son answered, we can't wait forever. He'll never let go of the house unless someone makes him. For a moment, it didn't feel real. Was this what our arguments had come down to, fighting not for love, but for things? There was an edge in their words, something planned and secret. I felt all the warmth in my chest fade away. All those years, all those dinners and lessons, now tangled up in talk of property and what was deserved. There was a hidden agenda right in my own living room. I thought about every hug, every I love you, every moment I thought we were safe as a family. Were they just waiting for the right time to push me out? The questions grew too heavy to ignore. How many more secrets were there? What else was being said behind closed doors while I sat quietly, believing we could heal? I listened longer, heart pounding, afraid to miss even a single word. My son talked about paperwork, about what would happen if lawyers got involved. His wife spoke about money, plans, building a life that no longer included me. It was like looking at strangers in my own home, a story I never thought would be mine. Would you dig deeper or let it go? Maybe I should have opened the door and confronted them right then. Maybe I should have let them know I was listening, demand honesty. But fear held me back, fear of making things even worse, fear of discovering more than Sometimes, learning the truth feels like crossing a bridge you can't come back from. As I stood in the dark, I thought about how families sometimes keep secrets to protect themselves, but sometimes those secrets hurt more than any fight. I wondered how long this had been going on, how many moments I missed, the looks, the whispers, the plans made quietly in rooms I never entered. I tiptoed away, unsure whether to act or stay silent. Walking back to my room, everything felt different. The walls, the photos, even the air, they all carried new weight. Was it worth uncovering the whole story, or was it better to leave things as they were? The choice was now just as painful as everything that happened before. All night, sleep never came. I kept asking myself what I was willing to risk for the truth, and what I'd do with that truth once I found it. Would you try to bring everything out into the open, or would you keep quiet, hoping things would smooth over with time? Sometimes it's not just the fights that tear families apart, but the secrets that sit quietly until it's almost too late. The next morning, the tension had changed. Something unsaid, something new, lingering above breakfast and under every word. Deep down, I knew nothing would ever be quite the same. Would you dig deeper, searching for every hidden answer, or would you let go, hoping that not knowing might be easier, safer, even if your heart begs for more? That was the choice left in front of me, hard and lonely, with no clear path forward. I sat by the window watching sunlight stretch across the floor, thinking about all that had happened. The house was still and quiet, but my thoughts wouldn't settle. Can you ever fix what's broken? I kept asking myself, remembering every moment that led me here. Could old wounds heal, or were they just covered up, ready to hurt again when someone made the wrong move? I thought about family, not just the people you share blood with, but those who stand by you when life goes wrong. Sometimes, family isn't about blood. Sometimes, it's about survival. It's about who holds your hand when you're lost, who listens when you've got nothing left but tears and regrets. But the truth is, scars never really fade. They change you. Looking out, I remembered laughing with my son, peaceful days with my wife, shared dinners and gentle nights. Now those memories felt distant, covered in doubt and sadness. I wondered if my family could ever find its way back, or if we'd all keep drifting, holding on to old anger and words that shouldn't have been said. What would you do if everything you love was on the line? Would you fight for it, risk more pain and another round of heartbreak, or would you let go, save yourself from falling apart twice? There's no right answer, no easy way out. It's just the choices you make, hoping each one brings you closer to peace. In the end, I had to decide. Do I keep reaching out, try once more to begin a new chapter, or do I move forward alone, holding on to what I still have? I wish life came with clearer paths, with signs pointing the way. But it doesn't. All you can do is trust your heart and hope for a little forgiveness, a quiet room where you belong one more time. Maybe, just maybe, there's still a chance for understanding. Maybe tomorrow brings a softer voice, a warmer glance, a small invitation back into each other's lives. Or maybe you find a new kind of family, built from honesty and survival, ready to weather the storms for another day. Whatever happens, I know this. When everything you love is at risk, you hold tight to hope. And sometimes, hope is all that's left.